just a quick correction. I was actually in the magazine Forks Over Knives, not in the film. So, you know, I am totally blown away that I'm even out here speaking to you. Because if you had told me 10 years ago that I would be on a stage talking to an auditorium full of people about how I recovered from a compulsive overeating disorder, I would have said, no way, you're crazy. That's not ever going to happen. And if you had told me 10 years ago that the depression that had been with me since childhood would be gone, I would have told you, no way, you're crazy, that's not gonna happen. And if 10 years ago you had told me that at the age of 66, I would be training for a half marathon, I would have said, no way, you're crazy, that was never going to happen. And that's because 10 years ago, I'd given up. I was morbidly obese. I had been losing and gaining weight countless times since being very young, and I had it. I was just not ever going to diet again. I was never going to lose weight. I was just going to have to learn how to live large and accept myself the way I was. But to add to this, I had been depressed since elementary school. And I'd spent most of my adult life on medication, and it stopped working. And the doctor's response was more medication. And then, of course, I had side effects. So the response was more medication. And I just said, that's it. I've had it, I'm going off all medication. Well, then I was plunged into a really deep pit. So let me kind of paint a picture of what this was like for me. I would go to the grocery store and lean on the cart to take weight off of my knees because they hurt so badly. I was having trouble getting out of bed in the morning. And for a brief time, I'd go to bed at night hoping that I wouldn't wake up the next morning. So what changed? And there are a couple of things that happened, and one is I had to admit to myself that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I had to ask myself the hard question, what does my present say about my future? Because I had a mother at the time. My mother was in her mid-80s and still going strong. And I had a grandmother who lived to 96. And that's a long time to be alive when you're not really living. So, what to do? Well, what do we all do when we need to learn something new? We go to Google. And I started just doing research and looking around and literally throwing things against the wall to see what sticks. And I came up with, I'd like to say that I found this model and that I followed it, and it made everything good. But the truth is, I took about 2 years, well, probably closer to 3. And it was a lot of trial and error and mistakes and missteps. But in hindsight, this is the model I came up with. And you'll notice that the steps are exercise and diet are at the top because they're the last steps. And I think that what we tend to do, I mean, conventional wisdom says you need to eat less and move more. And so what we do is when we know we need to make changes, we go right to those 2 steps, which is what I had done for a lifetime, over and over again, and it never worked. So, spending a few times on the bottom 3, I was able to make changes that supported the top 2 when I was ready. And if you're interested, I've talked briefly about the bottom 3, but I will be doing a workshop, I'll put a little plug in for that now, on Sunday afternoon, so I hope you can stay for it, on balancing body, mind, and spirit for permanent weight loss. And we'll be taking a deeper dive into these 3 steps. But for now, I'll just say, in adopting a positive attitude, the first thing I did was reframe my failures into learning experiences. And it doesn't matter whether it was epic, like losing 50 pounds and gaining 60, or simply eating a sleeve of saltine crackers after a hard day. I just, okay, this happened. What did I learn from it? And move on. The second one is living mindfully, because I found that mindful eating was a very powerful tool in the recovery work that I did. And it helped me look at myself with compassion and kindness, and actually helped me stand back and look at my behavior. So if I was overeating a bag of potato chips, I could see what I was doing. And it really helped me along the way in making better decisions. When it comes to loving the body you have right now, not the one you're going to have, but the one you have right now, a lot of people give me pushback on this one and say, well, where's the motivation to change if I do that? Won't it make me complacent? And the truth is, you can't do well for yourself if you don't have a sense of kindness and compassion, because it makes it so much easier to pass on the chips and the cookies if you are coming at this with a sense of self-care. On moving the body you have right now, don't wait, move it whatever size you are, it's okay. What I did, I was only in my late 50s by the time I started exercising, but I went to a senior exercise class because after a decade of inactivity, that was all I could do. And then I built on it from there. So, diet. Diet, I made changes very gradually. I gave up fried food first. I mean, I said mindful eating kind of helped me see what I was doing with chips and French fries. But I saw Dr. Furman on PBS. And I should backtrack a minute. In 1984, I read Francis Moore Lepay's Diet for a Small Planet. And I went vegetarian immediately. So we all know that just because you're a vegetarian or a vegan doesn't mean you're necessarily eating a healthy diet. But I gave up meat analogs, and I started eating whole grains. And then I saw forks over knives, and I started thinking, wow, this whole food plant-based, there's something to this. So I was eating primarily whole food plant-based, but I was still saying, oh, but I can include cheese. Just a little bit of cheese, because I was still stuck in this everything is in moderation mindset. And I kept trying to moderate my cheese, but it never worked. So at one point, I was listening to a video on YouTube, and I'm not sure whether it was Dr. McDougall or Dr. Barnard talking about milk being a cocktail of hormones and pus, and we all know that. And he kept saying, milk is liquid meat. Milk is liquid meat. And the light bulb went on in my head, and I was like, I wouldn't eat a piece of meat, so why am I eating cheese? Can I give it up? Okay, I'm gonna try it for 2 weeks. So I gave up cheese for 2 weeks. And I lost 7 pounds in the first week, and I felt better. And then I said, okay, I need to extend this experiment to 6 weeks. So 6 weeks. And I was feeling even a little bit better. I said, okay, I need to give this experiment a whole 6 months just to see. And that's when the cravings kicked in, really bad. I mean, I was dying for a piece of pizza. And Dr. Barnard's book on cheese addiction hadn't come out yet. So I hadn't quite gotten to the point where I recognized this as an addiction, but this is how psychologists, I don't want to, any psychologists here in the audience, don't want to insult you, but a lot of psychologists don't understand food issues if they don't have them themselves. 3 of my friends who are PhD psychologists said, well, can't you just go out and get 1 slice of pizza? And, you know, I knew instinctively that that wasn't going to help. Even though I hadn't recognized that it's probably like telling an alcoholic to just go out and have 1 drink. But, okay, I didn't do it. And one day, it took about 2 months, I woke up and the cravings were gone. And the whole world looked a little bit brighter. I was continuing to lose weight after that 6-month experiment, and I knew I was onto something, and I knew I wasn't going back this time. So I learned even more about a whole food plant-based diet, and I kept going, and I started feeling better. And the next thing I knew, I'm not depressed anymore. I've been depressed my entire life. And I mean, to the point of it could have killed me. And it was dairy that was doing it. I don't know exactly. There's no hard evidence. But in my experience, I would guess that it was dairy. The other thing is exercise. I tried to exercise many, many times in my life before, and it was always hard. It was never enjoyable. And all of a sudden, I'm out exercising, and I love it. And it feels good. My suspicion is that dairy had some kind of inflammation going on, that once I got that out of my system, I could really enjoy getting my heart rate up and exercising. So as a result of what I've gone through, I have been committed. I developed this model to help other people, and I'm committed to helping people live their best lives. And if you're interested, I have a website here, and you can subscribe to my newsletter. And I will be here the rest of the week, so please feel free to get in touch with me, or come ask me any questions that you would like to. Thank you.